three things that we say in terms of our message. Our message is very clear. One, we have a plan. Two, we have been preparing for this moment for 4 years. All of the work that we've done to help Black women, to prepare ourselves for when they get attacked, to help others who have been attacked, all of that is preparation for this moment. One moment. Plan. That is because we have been prepared. I was watching the live stream and the volume changed. Excuse me. 3, we are ready to win and we will. So what's the plan? It also is 3 quick points. 1, we have got to flood the atmosphere with information, factual information about Vice President Harris. They are trying to attack her and associate with her with things that are being misaligned as well as just flat out false. And the only way to beat that back is with the truth. Shine a light on the truth. And we're going to be doing that between now and through convention. The convention is an opportunity, and I think that's the second phase, is an opportunity to direct people to see exactly how the process has worked. In this moment, and I'm not saying in all moments, because I don't always agree with everything they do, but in this moment, Democrats are being very intentional to be transparent, and we need to hold them accountable by watching and paying attention to what is happening at convention. 2 important things happen at convention. 1, the platform for her campaign gets approved, and you will be a part of that process if you're paying attention. And then we find out if what she's about resonates with what we're about. And the second thing is you will also see the people supporting her. Finally, and this is the last part of the plan, once we have flooded the zone with all things Kamala Harris, once we have watched the convention, the final part of the plan, because I told you we had one, is to get our folks mobilized. And that is everybody, everywhere, every state. Yes, there will be some intentional focus around some of the battleground states. But we need to be focused in every state, and let me tell you why. It's exactly why what Fatima said in her introductory remarks. Because yes, we plan to win this cycle, but if we want to continue to win and make sure that we're winning because we have politicians that are paying attention to our issues, we need to be everywhere people are running. Everywhere we live is where we need to be preparing for. If we ever want things to change where we live, we've got to make sure that we can do both. Have a great president, make sure we elect a Congress that can support her, which means making leaders Jeffrey into Speaker Jeffrey, and make sure that we're protecting the Senate while at the same time protecting those who are representing our communities and inspiring new leaders, maybe some of you on this call, to run for office yourselves. I want to thank Fatima for the invitation. Appreciate the gracious words about Win with Black Women. We stand for 2 quick things, and that is our founder, Joteka Edie, always says we started Win with Black Women as a love letter to ourselves. And in that, we hope that you will adopt the same attitude, that this call will be an example of a love letter that you write to yourselves in order to empower you to do great things. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so very much, Holly. We really, really appreciate you. We appreciate all the help you've been giving us. Dr. Sharif, are we ready?
Yes, ma'am. Good evening. Can you hear me now better?
Much better.
Okay, good evening, everyone, and sorry about the technical delays here. I'm actually at work. My name is Dr. Sharif. I'm one of the co-sponsors of this event. I've had the pleasure to work with this wonderful woman, Madam Fatima Barry, as well as Vicky and all the other collaborators on the planning committee. Obviously, as you all know, we all been moved from this historic moment. And as Africans in the diaspora, we all have vested interest to make sure, obviously, Kamala Harris wins, as well as our elected representatives who are obviously here with us, and we're grateful for that opportunity. And obviously, I'm obviously very happy for the support that we received from the Honorable Gregory Meeks that's connected us with the other congressmen and women that are joining us today. So we are excited. The goal is to obviously raise funds for this event and sensitize our community and get out the vote. And thank you. Look forward to participating in this event. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. And very quick message for people, anyone who might be on. If you have any questions, you can use the Q&A, and that would allow you to put in any questions that you have, and the panelists can see it. The chat right now is not open. It will be at some later in the. It will be later in the during the program, but it's not yet. Okay, but it will be. So bear with us. We will, or you can put your comments in the chat. Rather, I'm sorry, in the Q&A section. And now we would like to introduce, for me, it's an honor. I was going to read her whole biography, but I know she's driving and they don't have that much time to be here. But Representative Ilhan Omar is an amazing advocate and vocal person in the Congress who makes, at least from me as an African immigrant woman in America, very proud on a regular basis. As a Muslim woman, extremely proud on a regular basis. And I appreciate everything that she has done while she's been in Congress and the history-making election that brought her to the Congress. And I want to take the time to say thank you for that and give her the floor to speak and present to us and get us all worked up. Congresswoman Omar.
Well, thank you so much, Sister Barry and Brother Sharif, for the invitation and for gathering all of us in this incredible, historic, momentous moment that we are living through. And I want to say hello to my African siblings who have joined us and say how incredible it is to have my two younger brothers in Congress, Joe Neguse and Gabe Amo, also take part of this call today, this call to action. I think we all remember where we were when we heard the news that VP Harris was going to be on the top of the ticket, and what that meant for all of us. I know that not only was it met with severe excitement, but it was also met, I think, with some anxiety as well. Excitement, we can all tell, just the level of engagement and enthusiasm that people have shown from the hundreds of millions of dollars that have been raised through grassroots efforts from millions of Americans to the incredible consolidation of endorsements from her former colleagues in Congress, to the governors who are standing by her. I think this is a show in the fact that not only is VP Harris qualified to be our next president, but she's also a very exciting and trusted leader that our country can get behind. I had the incredible honor of serving with her in Congress when I first got there, my first 2 years. I remember her leadership in fighting for maternal health. I remember her leadership in leading the Juneteenth bill. I remember her leadership in trying to outlaw lynching. I remember her leadership in fighting, in building equity in the Black community and generational wealth. I remember her leadership in the Judiciary Committee, holding folks accountable. And we all know that we've all benefited from the incredible record that the Biden-Harris administration has, whether it is the Inflation Reduction Act, whether it's the American Recovery legislation, whether it's the infrastructure bill that just alone in my own state will create 10,000 jobs every year for the next 10 years. Those are green union jobs. Whether it is the Chips and Manufacturing Act or her leadership in foreign affairs, going to so many African countries and putting them back on the map. So it is, someone who has the record to run on, an incredibly exciting record. But it's somebody that we know that she is going to be an incredible champion going forward for all of the things that many of us care about and want to see our country accomplish in order to create the kind of progress we want to see. Now, I know that for the African diaspora community, this is going to be the moment where we all come together, put our differences aside, and work as siblings to make sure that we are reaching every single corner of our communities throughout this country, having the necessary conversations with people who have not voted before, people who are considering not voting for Democrats, people who are independent, and bring them to our side. Explain VP Harris's platform, her accomplishments, and as Sister Holly said earlier, defend her record, make sure that we familiarize ourselves and provide ourselves with the tools that we're going to need in order to have those conversations. And as an elected official and as somebody who has campaigned, I know that the best message to voters is when we personalize elections for them. Why does it matter to them? By sharing why it matters to us. So by sharing our story about what this election means for us and why we are supporting Harris, we are going to be able to bring people along. And what I do want, and I am like Sister Holly, I do believe that we are going to win. We must win, but I don't want us to win with a question mark. I don't want the margins to be close enough. I want her to be able to have an enormous victory. So she has the mandate to be able to accomplish and have a successful presidency, so that it is one that continues to inspire future generations to want to lead. And for me, although I am in a competitive primary at the moment that hopefully will conclude with a victory on August 13th, we are already simultaneously having conversations with voters about VP Harris and her candidacy and preparing the groundwork to try to make sure that everybody is ready to hit the ground running and elect VP Harris and keep Minnesota blue. And that I do have the resources necessary to be able to mobilize our district, which is the district in our state. So again, I am really grateful and honored to be part of this moment with you all. And I look forward to working with all of you in order to make sure our VP becomes our next president. So thank you.
Thank you so very much, Congresswoman. We really appreciate that. So before we get to any Q&A that you may have for the Congresswoman, we will first go to Congressman Amo, who was just recently elected in Rhode Island, right? And I lived in Rhode Island when I was a young person, in Providence to be exact, in Pawtucket. So when I saw that, I was like, oh.
I represent Pawtucket.
You represent Pawtucket. There you go, my fellow New Englander. He has an amazing story. He has the experience of I've already worked in the White House before he got into office. But I will let him speak to you, so we'll save some time and have enough time for you all to ask the questions of our two members of Congress. Congressman Amo.
Wonderful. Well, good evening, and thank you so much to our organizers, Famata, Dr. Sharif, Holiday, my friend Jateka, so many great people I see also in my panel. Of course, I have to acknowledge my good friend Congresswoman Omar, who is in an intense race. So I hope you visit her website as well. I know she didn't drop it herself, but I'm going to drop it for her. And additionally, want to acknowledge the assistant Democratic leader, Joe Neguse, who is not able to join us, but our Eritrean brother, who is a history maker, ground shaker out of Colorado, who is in transit right now and just sent me a note. But I wanted to acknowledge him too, because we have so many flavors of the diaspora on the call. To introduce myself, many of you may not know who I am because I am new to Congress. I've been in Congress just short of 9 months. I was elected in November 2023 to represent Rhode Island's 1st Congressional District. And if you know anything about Rhode Island, you know that we have a robust, active, vibrant, and a very impactful diaspora community. From the 2 communities that I'm from, my dad was born in Ghana, and my mother was born in Liberia. In fact, the greatest number of Liberians not in Liberia are in Rhode Island. And I know we probably have some folks from Minnesota here and Baltimore and Philly who might have some claims on that as well. But I'm telling you, the most Liberians outside of Liberia are in Rhode Island, and a large Ghanaian population, but so many different parts of the diaspora, folks from Sierra Leone, Nigeria. We have more recent arrivals from Guinea and from Senegal, and all over the map, and certainly a lot of folks on the eastern side of the continent. But I came to Congress because of the thesis statement that I have for government, right? Which is that somebody came before us exhibiting a strong amount of hard work, grit, resilience, and determination to make our tomorrows better than today. And I think that is encapsulated in Vice President Harris's run for Congress. She represents that same hope and optimism that we've seen before, but a fierce urgency, a career baked in action. Someone who has been a prosecutor, someone who has been a lawmaker, someone who I got to see firsthand at the White House drive significant change for the American people. Before I came to Congress, I got to serve in 2 White Houses and work for a governor. I worked for our current Secretary of Commerce, Gina Raimondo, when she was governor of Rhode Island. And I worked for President Obama before that as a junior staffer in intergovernmental affairs. And until last April, when I ran in a special election, a 13-way special election in Rhode Island, where I started at 0% because I had never run for anything before and was able to be successful. It was telling that narrative, but also telling the work of the Biden-Harris administration. And I want to emphasize the Biden-Harris administration, where I was special assistant to the president and deputy director of the White House Office of Intergovernmental Affairs. So that's a long title. But what it means is being there for people around this country on good days and bad days. And I've seen the vice president in action, being there for people in this country on good days and bad days. So many of my calls were about mass shootings. You wake up, the 3 a.m. call, she heard that call. I've been with her around the country. I heard her respond to communities, calling mayors, calling governors, seeing her in Highland Park, Illinois, after their tragic 4th of July shooting a few years ago. When I've seen her step in to big work around maternal health, Black maternal health, and lead that, because it is important to have representation that presents a face of those who are impacted. When I've seen her respond to environmental justice challenges, we know that our folks, when we come to this country, right, when our communities come to this country, often go to places where the environmental injustice is present. Clean air isn't there. Clean water is absent. That's what we have seen in some of our communities. And she has fought vigorously to make sure those funds from that bipartisan infrastructure law go to the communities who are most directly affected, right? Driving change. And of course, we've seen her lead on issues around a democracy, right? We all know, the instability on the continent, driven through hundreds of years of colonization, driven through the difficulty that it is to build a foundation of democratic governance. We know that firsthand. She is able to speak in testament and verse to the value of our democratic values, lowercase d, but also those uppercase D democratic values. So when I speak from that experience, seeing her firsthand, working with state legislators around this country, seeing her work with her colleagues like Congresswoman Omar and Congressman Neguse when she was in the Congress, she operates with a fierce intensity. And I want to underscore this. We're going to talk a lot about contrast over this campaign. The prosecutor and the convicted felon, right? We're going to talk a lot about the Project 2025 versus her vision of expanding freedoms and democracy. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about someone who wants to double down on the concentration of wealth. That's what I call the double down on the trickle down economics versus what she wants to do and expand opportunity for all, including investing in our care economy. And when I say the care economy, I also think specifically about my own life, my mother being a nurse in nursing homes. We know that experience, that those jobs disproportionately fall to women of color, Black women, and immigrant women. So when I see that work that she's focused on, I want to express that contrast, but I want her to shine in her own right. Like my colleague, Congresswoman Omar said, she's got to win with a mandate. We can't have any shortcomings. We have to speak to her strengths, her virtues. That's what all this energy is. This energy over the last week, I sat in my apartment in this exact space and did 12 TV interviews in a row that Sunday because I thought it was important to get out immediately. So she operates with strength, and she is experienced, qualified, ready, and one of the most prepared people to be a candidate for president in our history. Think about it. District attorney, attorney general, United States senator, now vice president for the last 3.5 years for the most significant presidential administration legislatively in decades. Arguably compare it to Lyndon Johnson. Arguably compare it to FDR. Significant legislatively, in addition to her raw experience, her ability to be someone we can all relate to. So I say to you this, there will be calls to action, but I'm going to start them now. You have 3 tasks. 1, to those who are able to contribute, and you heard the guidelines before. You need to be a voter, be able to contribute. You contribute, go to kamalaharris.com, contribute. The second is mobilize. We are going to be knocking on doors. We're going to be making calls all over the country. Don't just worry about the battlegrounds. Worry about the battlegrounds, but worry about everywhere else too. We need to get as many people voting as possible. We need to make sure that there is no stone left unturned. Okay, and what that is going to mean is that you volunteer. Is that where you are proximate, you knock on doors. Where you're not, there will be a whole campaign apparatus for you to call from your computer at home to places across the country where they need the capacity. I know this because I helped run the 2020 campaigns organizing in non-battleground states. So you should sign up on the website at kamalaharris.com. The third thing is stay in touch with this network. This network will continue to mobilize. Whether it is signing up for the websites of the elected officials here, ilhanomar.com, I think is the website, but it's in the mobile app. Sign up at my website, Gabeamo, GABEAMO.com, because I'm going to push the same information because I know my election is important, but what is even more important is making sure that we have a President Kamala Harris. So I don't want to take up much more of your time, but But those are the key objectives. Contribute when you're able to, if you're able to and qualify. Get involved with the voter mobilization in any way, in your workplace, in your community, getting on, making phone calls, and then stay in touch with the electeds here. And I also should say joenagoose.com too, because he is important. We're all going to be pushing people towards this effort. And I'm grateful that you're here, participating in this grassroots wave that has existed over this last week, from Black women to white dudes to the African diaspora. We're all putting our hats on and we're ready to go. So thank you for having me on.
Thank you very, very, very much, Congressman. We really appreciate all of that. Do you guys have a few minutes to stay to answer some questions that they may have on here, or whether you can even answer some of these questions? So one question we have that I think maybe I don't know if you can answer it or not. If you can't, just say so. Whether you can even speak to it is up to you. If you cannot, we will very much understand. Do you have any information on the vice president or the party on funding early childhood education?
So I'm happy to speak a little bit to this, and I know there are proposals in Congress as well. But you all may recall, after the president introduced the infrastructure law, he had, along with the vice president, a plan that became multiple plans after that became the Inflation Reduction Act. But in the earliest iterations of it, there was a call that the vice president has started to articulate, but I think we'll hear more about it, for funding for childcare, early childcare funding, universal pre-K in particular, and then also working to subsidize childcare so that no one pays more than 7% of their income in childcare, and additionally making sure that we increase quality. Now, that was part of a plan that came forward. She will speak to her 100-day plan. She has started to speak to some elements of it, but look to that, because it is the care economy, as we describe it, is a very integral part of what we need to continue to do, invest in people around this country. But I see my colleague, Congresswoman Omar, so I want to turn to her.
No, I mean, that was right, Congressman Abel. The only thing that I would add is, even when the administration first started, their first bill was the American Recovery Plan, and in that there was a huge investment in for childcare centers and to help families afford childcare. And that also was part of the Build Back Better legislation that the president and VP Harris put forth, that we passed in the House, but ultimately were not successful in passing it in the Senate. And I know that VP Harris, in her first speech, spoke to the need for making childcare accessible. And as Gabe alluded to, she does support people not paying more than 7% of their income for childcare. So I think there is a lot to look forward to in her work around that area. But also, Democrats are also committed to that agenda as well.
I did want to raise one thing, because I didn't want to speak erroneously. Is there a contribution link specific to this call? If there is,
yes.
Please,
yes, there is.
Re-up it multiple times. I aired. You can go to KamalaHarris.com if you want, but I want this community to get credit for its activity, and so please contribute through that link. I don't want to mess that up. So
yes, thank you thank you. Thank you very much. It's in the chat.
Yeah, and I think that point is really important. If you just go to the website and you donate, they won't know it was generated from this call. So if you donate to the link that's being put in every 2 seconds, then they know it was generated from this call. So thank you.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for that. So we do we have any other? Well, somebody asked a question. what our place will be in the plans to win this coming elections and what the plan is, and lay it out. So we will be talking about those. This is a continued effort to mobilize. And as you've heard from two of the three Congress people who have been elected from our community around in this country, mobilization, being in touch, getting in contact, donation, and ensuring your voice is heard and you're seen, is how we get this. So this is a first step, and it's going to continue. Like any other community, we have to mobilize and come together and plan. And yes, definitely check your registration. And we will be having phone banking efforts. And what I wanted to ask myself was, what can we do to help both of you remain in office? What can the public do to help remain in office?
My senior sister, go for it.
So I would say for me, obviously, I think when Tana, who's my political director, my Eritrean sister, put in the chat a link for people to volunteer. And as Gabe was saying earlier, you don't have to live in my district in order to take a volunteer shift to phone bank or text bank. So that would be helpful if folks can sign up. And obviously, we are in the last 2-week stretch to the primary. So we are always in need of resources. So if you have the capacity to donate to our campaign, that would also be helpful. Yeah, those are the two main things that are the most helpful for us.
Yeah, I would echo that sentiment. Look, I got to Congress 9 months ago, and they always say the first 2 elections are the tough ones. So I'm having the first one, but luckily I feel like we're in a good position. That said, on the again, to the extent that people have capacity, no dollar is a bad dollar. So we are grateful. Part of the work that we all have to do is to demonstrate strength, and one of the metrics is financial contribution. So that's great. But the other thing is spreading the word. I mean, look, whether it's the metrics on social media to make sure that folks are following us on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and seeing the content that we're there, because you never know what resonates with somebody, and we're all working on so many important things. And so that is another key way is engaging with us in whatever way that's possible. And certainly being on our lists is a great way to be involved. But again, we have many interlocking missions, and so grateful that you are on and you are active. And I see we're up to 1,000+ people, and that's just such a wonderful thing.
So someone asked a question about whether you can speak on whether they have her as a czar, the immigration czar or border czar, some kind of whether you can speak to that at all as it relates to the border.
Yep. All right, maybe I'll start, Gabe, and then I have to get off after this. So there is no such thing as an immigration czar or a border czar. What VP Harris was tasked with was the same task that President Biden has when he was the VP to President Obama, which is to do diplomatic work with the that those countries have the capacity to address the root causes of migration, to make sure that we are mitigating and changing the policies that are creating the kind of mass migration that is so devastating in many ways does not continue to happen. And I will say, there are many of the policies that she's worked on and implemented because they take a really long time to address root causes. We are starting now, after 3.5 years, to see some of the progress being made, and I want us, that I think that border czar narrative is something that we have to push back hard enough, because Republicans want to talk about the border, but they don't want to fix any of the issues that are related to the border. They don't want immigration reform. They don't want to create more judges. They don't want to deal with, they don't want to lift the sanctions in many of the countries. They don't want to help stop the exploitation that is making people leave their countries. They don't want to help with the violence that is happening, and the corruption. So we know that VP Harris's policies and what she's advocated for are really creating the kind of progress that we are seeing right now, and we know that she's going to continue to build on that once she is president.
And the only thing I'd add there is look, there are certain lines of attack that the Republicans want to pursue. So let's not fall into their traps. Let's not focus on what we're hearing from Fox News, from talk radio, from people whose sole intent is to ensure that she isn't successful. And so you may also say in response, well, how do I respond to people in my life? And I think Congresswoman Omar laid it out, but we should say that ultimately the Republicans have stood in the way of progress to respond to the issues at the southern border. And that is the fact. Because of former President Trump, we have seen their caucus, the Republicans, not want to make any steps towards addressing the solution. And so just be wary of accepting the attacks. They're already spending money on TV for it. Look at the commercials. That shows you what they care about. And so I would just, double down in under your understanding about why they are focused on that storyline. And that's all about driving division, ensuring that we feel negative about someone who has shown in just 10 days that she is who America wants to be their next president.
Thank you very much. They have to go. We know that Representative Omar is on the road, and we appreciate that she took the time to be here with us today. The links are in the chat. And we want to take this time to say thank you so much for coming. And we look forward to working together. Thank you very much, Congresswoman Omar and Congressman Amo. We really appreciate you.
And thank them, obviously. Thank her for a safe trip. I know she has a tough primary there. We'll definitely have to reach out to support her, phone bank, and donate to her to make sure she comes back to Congress.
Yes, yes, yes. And remind you again, we have our call to action funding, providing, we have a dedicated link that's in the chat that is dedicated to the Africans in the diaspora for Kamala Harris. So if you donate there, the monies will be counted towards our community, and it shows the work we've put in to get this done. So next in line, we have our local elected officials, and we will start with Montgomery County's state delegate, Bernice Miracle North. She is a state delegate here in Maryland. It's the state rep. So I'll let her introduce herself for time purposes and have her tell you a little, give us a little bit of her rah. She's an amazing woman, a fellow attorney who has worked very hard to get to where she is today, and is doing great things. Delegate Bernice Miracle North.
And thank you to Ms. Holliday and Dr. Sharif and the team for putting this event together. You know, the congressman and congresswoman did a lot to explain what is necessary to do for these upcoming elections. So I'm going to take this time to help you you understand my why. Almost 8 years ago, I gave birth to my first child in 2016, and she was born in October. About 3 weeks later, Trump was elected president. And I remember sitting in a living room with my 3-week-old and saying to myself, what have we done? And ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to go back there. I don't want another mother, another family wondering, what have we done if Trump gets elected? That is my why. That's my why personally, as a woman, as an African woman, as a mother, as a community member. We cannot go back. Now, as Kamala mentioned, I serve as a delegate in the House of Delegates in the state of Maryland, which is synonymous to representative in other parts of the country. And I serve on a Ways and Means Committee. So we deal with education issues, revenue, and early childhood education. And that topic was mentioned earlier. So when I think about the importance of the election in November at the federal level, I'm thinking about, who do I want my federal partners to be? Because folks, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And what's on the menu this November is not just the fact that we're about to make history with having Vice President Harris become our first woman of color president, but education is on the ballot. Reproductive freedom is on the ballot. Climate change is on the ballot. Housing is on the ballot. I, as a state official, need the right federal partners to get things done at the state level. I serve on the Committee of Federal Relations in the state of Maryland, where we actually have meetings with our federal partners on issues, for instance, like the Key Bridge, which some of you might have known that was impacted in Maryland, that came down. I actually just saw the bridge the other day for a conference. We need the partners to figure out, how are we going to build that bridge back up? How are we going to build that bridge back up so we can get the economy going, so we can get Maryland economy going, so we can get US economy going? This is all interconnected. And that's why we can't go back. And we need Kamala Harris to be our president. We need the right partners to make us move forward and to build a better future for all of us, whether you're first generation or second generation immigrant. We need to build a better future for all of us. And we need all of us in all the different channels of support. So as mentioned earlier, volunteering, whether it's phone banking, door knocking, whether it's just communicating with your colleagues and your networks and WhatsApps and the like, to say, hey, go out and vote. Hey, are you registered? Because in general election, it doesn't matter what party you're in. You just show up and vote for the right person. You also need to donate, and that's why we're here tonight. So I encourage you to donate to the link. I'm going to donate tonight before midnight, before we get off the call. But it's so important to show that we have to have our seeds planted tonight to show our value, not just to future President Harris. I'm claiming it on November 6th, but for all of us in this political circle, to the Congress, to the states, to the county council, to the mayors, to the school boards. None of us can do our jobs locally if we don't have the right partners at the federal level. That's the plain truth. Now, similar to Congressman Amo, I've been one of the newer members of the State House of Delegates. So I'm still learning my way in terms of getting things done. But I tell you, in Maryland, as we're facing budget cuts, we are thankful to have President Biden and other current partners help us in times of need, like with the Key Bridge in Maryland. But I don't know what it's going to be like if we don't have someone like Kamala Harris as president. But I know one thing, I'm not going back. And I hope none of you want to go back either. So please, please support our sister, Kamala Harris, and thank you all for this opportunity to chat with you tonight.
Thank you very much. Dr. Sharif, do you want to take over to introduce the others?
I don't have the list with me here.
Okay, all right, so next one in line is Councilmember Walla Bligay. She's from Prince George's County. She's a council member, District 5 or 6?
District 6.
District 6.
Well,
She's my Liberian sister.
Definitely, Liberian and Nigerian. I just want to thank you so much, Fatmata, for your leadership and Dr. Sharif's leadership, all of you all that put this together. This is critical. Much like Delegate Bernice, I want to go back because I have a story and a story that I want you all to remember where we are. In 2019, I'm a Liberian American, and a lot of Liberians were on temporary, on DED status. And when Trump got in, his administration was unwilling to extend the DED status. And DED status, unlike TPS, you can go to court, you can make arguments that why a certain group needs a temporary protective status, but DED is completely at the discretion of the president. From we went comfortable, Liberians were here for 20-something years. Most of the time, the DED was always extended. In 2007, we went to President Bush, it was extended. During Obama, no one even had to worry. It was extended. But with Trump, it was the first time that we had to organize. If Liberians on the call remember, we had to go to Congress, begging and pleading each congressional members to make sure that we do not have not one Liberian deported. We pleaded. I remember going to Congressman Horry's office, and he called, and there was a call over to Trump's administration begging them, and they said that they were not going to do it. If you all remember, at one point, it took all of our organization to the point that they had to put something in the actual budget amendment in order for us to get our Liberians to stay here. And this was the Democrats that had to do this. And many of our Liberian sisters and brothers were looking at true deportation, and we were even preparing for it. I never want to live that again, to see our own people getting deported. And let me just tell you this, under Trump administration, when we look at African immigrants, the highest number of deportation was, and when you talk about percentage, we don't have the numbers that some of the other groups like the Latino groups have, but we had the highest number of deportations. And it started to bother our community in a way that we sat comfortably for years, some of us. And for the Liberian community, it was such a wake-up call because we heard things from that Trump administration that was clear that they had no respect for African immigrants. And if it was not for the Democratic Party and actually reaching out to those, we would not have the pathway to citizenship that the Liberian community has today. That's just one example. And we even started looking at Nigerians when COVID started. So I just want to remind you all, when Delegate Bernice is talking about, I don't want to go back, that's what I don't want to go back to. And that was the fear that our community had to live through during the Trump administration. We cannot go back. So I will tell you this, for our brothers and sisters that might have status issues that are on TPS asylum, there are a lot of things that we have family members that are going through now. We even had an immigration, I don't even want to prepare for the worst. We had an immigration event last month because I was saying, if we don't win this election, we could have a trouble in our community. So let me just tell you this. That's one of the many reasons that we have to stand up and fight to make sure that Kamala Harris is our next president, that we are saying Madam President in January of 2025. And let me just add to you this. When we talk about funding to our community, many communities we live, if those of you who live in Prince George's County, I'm sitting on the county council, we got so much money during President Biden's administration. Prince George's County, we have a very thin budget, very thin, $5 billion, over 1 million people. And we had money at this point. I literally this morning had to deal with multiple seniors who are being evicted, and because the money from the federal government has run out. And we don't have any money. So right now, at this morning, I've got to find a place for one of my seniors that might be on the street. We have businesses that are now looking for funding, that got a lot of funding under the Biden administration. We in Prince George's County, many of the local communities benefited so greatly from this administration, and it must continue. We know that Madam President, I'm claiming it. She will actually open the doors and make sure we get more. We have the FBI Center coming to Prince George's County. That's opportunities for a lot of our immigrant communities, for job opportunities, contract opportunities. We can, if we're looking at Project 2025, we're looking at what this Trump administration is going to bring. It will reminder of 2019, of what happened in our community. It will be worse. So I would say this: we have to do everything in our power to make sure that in 2025 that we're saying, Madam President, for Kamala Harris. So I would say today, I'm asking you, I'm going to make my donation before midnight. I would say that we need not to do donation. I'm telling you this: I'm getting a bus and I'm heading to the nearest state, that battleground state, which is Pennsylvania, for Maryland. And if you want to come, you can reach out to me. I'm going to put my email in the chat. We are going to be doing that sometime later this in September or October. We're heading to the battleground state. We're not only going to raise money, we're going to knock on doors and we're going to get voters to do the same. We're going to bring out the vote to make sure that that our next president is a Black woman, an Asian woman, a Black woman, a woman that looks like many of us on the call. I am so proud of her, and I look forward to calling her president. Thank you all so much for having me on this call.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman Belgay. You actually touch on one of the most important things in our African community is immigration status. And thank you so much. And for some of us who've been here probably over 30 years, we are citizens. Let's not forget others who are transitioning through that path, that we have to go back and help them out so they too could be secured. And by doing that, obviously, is to make sure Kamala Harris wins this election, to make sure our supporters within Congress, our local council people win, so our community be able to get the support they need. Let's reach back and help those who have undocumented status, to help them. Just because we are okay, that doesn't mean they're okay. So it's important stuff you brought up, and thank you for saying that, because that's the key. I don't care how much college degrees you have. If your status is, if you don't have a legal status, you're nobody in this country. So it's important. Thank you.
And I'm looking to see who's here. So we will go next to
Is this Council Ali from Portland, Maine? Is Council Ali from Portland, Maine on? You are next speaker, please.
Thank you very much. My sister Fatuma, thank you for putting this together. I think this is the largest African gathering that I've seen online. And it's exciting. We are in a moment that is our moment. We are in a moment that is exciting, not just for us as African immigrants, but also for our kids and the future of this country. So a lot have been said on Vice President Harris. I am a city councilor, and those of you who know where Portland, Maine is, it's getting to the end of US when you are going to Canada in the Eastern Bloc. And as I'm talking to you, between 2019 and right now, we have to close to 11,500 African migrants that have moved here. They first started coming here. We already had Africans here, and they started coming here during the Trump administration. We didn't get any help or any support from the federal government. In 2019, it was painful for me to leave my apartment and see African women and their kids on the street when it is snowing. When the administration changed hands and we had the Biden administration, we were given the support that we need to get these people housing, to give them the support that they need. So as my two friends have said, we cannot go back to that kind of leadership. We can't. And we should do all that we can locally. When you are our communities, we know who are in our communities who are citizens. We know who are in our communities who are not. Let's get those who are citizens who don't vote. Let's get them to the polls and get them to vote. Let's register them and get them to go and vote. Those who cannot vote, they can volunteer. I think because of technology, it is easy these days to sit on your couch wherever you are and make phone call in completely different parts of the country. In 2020, I was sitting here in Portland, Maine, and I was calling Atlanta, Georgia, talking to Ghanaians, talking to people who speak one of the languages that I speak, which is Hausa, and asking them to go out and vote. So let's do that. Let's make sure that, as I think it's Congressman Gabe Amu said, let's not leave any stone unturned, and make sure that we've done all we can to get Vice President Harris into the White House, because at this moment, right now, that is the type of leadership this country needs to move forward, because going back is not an option. Thank you for having me. I am looking forward to working with all of you. I'm not running for re-election, so I'm not going to ask for donation, but let's donate to the Vice President, and then everyone else who have put their link in the chat. Thank you, and Fatuma and team, thank you for putting this together.
Well, thank you, Councilman Ali, for your leadership that you've exhibited in Portland, Maine, and we really appreciate your support. I mean, once more, again, obviously, the purpose of this meeting is to sensitize our African diaspora in a community in respect to fundraising, make sure we have enough money to support Kamala Harris's candidacy, as well as our congressmen and women who are in tough races to win, so they were able to succeed. Obviously, we want to sensitize our communities. We have a diverse group of people here on this panel from all 53 countries in Africa. They're all in different states, and I thank them for all their support. I believe our next speaker is Mayor Collins from Helena, Montana. Are you on, Mayor Collins?
Yes, I am. And I thank our sister Fatima for inviting us on this call. And we must realize that Africans in the diaspora have always played an integral part in the electoral process here in the U.S. But I'm especially excited that we can come together as a unit and get out there and make our voices heard and put our money where our mouths are. So what I want to say here is that the excitement you see here with Vice President Harris is not only on the East Coast, it's up Northwest also. We are just as excited as every one of you. My advice here is we must not only talk to people we're comfortable with. We need to start talking to people who are sitting on the fence, who are not sure which side they want to go. We need to start talking to everybody, even people we know that will vote for Trump. We need to get them on board. Don't only speak with Africans, because we already know when Trump is getting out his dog whistles, we are included in that. When he's talking about Mexicans, he's talking about Africans. When he's talking about whatever he's talking about that is against one race is against us also. And so everybody continue to say, we're not going back. I would echo the same. We're not going back. Let's move forward. But we must realize that we have to start talking to people that we're not familiar with. We got to step outside of that comfort zone. We got to step outside of that comfort zone and take those risks and meet with people who are not thinking like us and make them think like us. Fatima, I don't know how to thank you. You've done an awesome job getting us together. And people, we need to stop pounding the doors. We need to stop wearing out our shoes. We need to start giving those $1 and $2. They all make a difference. Today, if every one of us were going to be giving $5, we would have almost $10,000 in the coffers already. So what I'm saying here is that let's dig deep and support all of the elected officials that are out here today that are trying to get reelected, and most especially Madam President Harris. Thank you.
And Mayor Collins, for those who may not know, can you tell us just a little bit about how you became Mayor Collins?
Well, I'm Wilmot Collins, and I'm mayor of the capital city of Montana, Helena. And I just won my second term. I'm originally from Liberia, West Africa. I know it. I started off not knowing anything about the political systems in Helena, and my son got me involved in politics. He was born here. He said, "Dad, this is something you can do." And I've never been more nervous than getting into the race. And so my first term, I won by only 2 percentage points, and it was very close. But I was also what I promised in my platform, I delivered to the people of Helena. And so by my second term, I won by 36 percentage points. So it was a resounding victory. So I know it can happen. And I live in a red state. My wife and I, we live in a red state. And if this can happen, we can still do it with the others. So let's not relent. Let's keep pushing. Let's keep getting out of our comfort zone and meeting those crazies where they are.
Thank you so much, Mayor Collins. Thank you very much. Amazing story, right, guys? So
Amazing story. I mean, if he can win a mayorship in the capital state of Montana, boy, and that's just the belief we all have in America. That's the reason why we're here. It's only possible here. I could reassure Mayor Collins he might not win election in Moravia, probably. but he's able to win an election in America, and that tells you why we believe in this country. That's why we need to support it so we all can succeed. Our kids are here, our grandkids are here, and that's what we believe in, the exceptionalism of America, that it is possible here. And some of us cannot win even a seat anywhere else in some of the countries we come from, but in America it's possible. So you are an example that is possible, sir. So thank you for a good job. Well done.
Thank you.
So our next speaker is State Rep Segun from the battleground state of Georgia. Is State Segun here?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Good evening, everyone. Excited to be on. State Representative Segun Adeyina, House District 110, up in Gwinnett County in Georgia. Yes, we are the battleground state, and Kamala Harris had an outstanding rise up yesterday in her rally in Georgia. We filled the house. We had over 12,000 people. I was really charged up and excited. I'm going to talk to you about her message because her message got to me and everybody out there. What was also impressive was our community, One Voice Africa, the African community, was in the house represented by Africans who we have collaborated over the last 10 years, over 27 different countries. And we were there. We've been recognized because we have done the work in Georgia, just like all Georgians have done and everyone does in their state, but we've really brought our community out. And, you know, the things of hope that Vice President Harris, soon to be President Harris, said were things she has a vision for the future. Her opponent doesn't. He wants to roll back the time. He is comfortable with that. She has a vision for jobs for the working class. And that stems from the current infrastructure bill that Biden has Biden Harris have put out there that we're benefiting from already. Gun safety, she talked about gun safety, women's reproductive rights. I mean, that is a very vital issue in our country today, where women should have the right to choose what they do with their body. We have to maintain that. I mean, I have, I've been married for going on 22 years this Saturday. I've got two lovely daughters, beautiful daughters. My mother's in her 70s, and I have two sisters. I mean, having women in our families, strong backgrounds of our family is important, and they should have their voices heard. She talked about immigration reform. We all know the tricks of what the other party is trying to do when it talks about immigration. Voting rights. Voting rights are going to be challenged more than ever. And you know, Georgia, you know what happened in Georgia, the 11,000 votes that we refused to give up because we understood our system was the right system. And that's why today we're able to continue to challenge people. And we have to do that in this election because Kamala understands what it is to be to have good governance because she has walked the walk from DA to Attorney General to Senator to VP. Come on, if that's not enough to prove that we have the most qualified candidate, I'm not even saying woman or man, most qualified candidate to take the helm for the next 8 years. I'm not just campaigning for 4 years. I am out there for the next 8 years because we need to have some stability. And that's what's going to change America because our kids' future is on the ballot. Our voting rights are on the ballot. Gun safety is on the ballot. And that's why we have to get out and vote like crazy. I'll tell you, in the last 8 years, Georgia has represented this country in understand and changing the tide for the rights of everyone that's on this phone tonight. We did it with Ossoff and Warnock. The African community came together. And one thing that was really unique about us, we did something different. We got a list in collaboration with partners from Unite Here, our Ethiopian community, our Kenyan community, our Nigerian community, our Ghanaian community. We called people in our communities and spoke our languages. And people understood the importance of being represented. People understood why they have to vote. And guess what they did? They voted for also Warnock. They voted for Stacey Abrams. We fell short the first time. And I know we didn't get her in the second time, but if she goes the third time, I bet you she's going to get in. Because we understand what matters. 11,000 votes in our community alone. Those numbers are there. So in 2022, I ran as one of the first Nigerian Americans. We have 5 that were elected that year and are currently were elected to the House, State House. And currently 4 of us are there. Unfortunately, we lost one of our sister, the late Tish Nagise. But you know what? Her spirit lives on because we're still there. We're still doing the work of the people. So we have four state reps in Georgia. We have city council leaders. We have county leaders, and they're all and they're African, and they're representing our community because representation matters. We want people that speak our language sometimes because we understand what's really hurting our people. I've had so many calls about issues in immigration, even though we say it's not a state issue, but it is. It's a community issue. You know, if you don't have the right papers, you can't go to school. If you don't have the right papers, you can't work. If you don't have the right papers, you can't feed your families. Those are things that hit our community. And that's why this election is so important. It's so important. I say we cannot afford to go back. We can't afford to go back. So I'm going to just, talk about, yes, I'm up for a re-election. I'm doing the work of the people. I'm excited because Kamala, I'm a strong surrogate for Kamala Harris. As I'm knocking on doors, I intend to knock on 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 doors. I'm not just knocking doors for myself. I'm knocking doors for Kamala Harris, because without a president in the White House, we can't get the work done on the local level. It's going to be hard. And just let you guys know, we are turning Georgia blue. We are going to turn Georgia blue, and we need your help. So as we post tonight, we should be raising money and donating to Kamala Harris campaign, because all those trips that she's flying around the country, they're not cheap. And we need ads. We need everything out there. We need bodies. We need volunteers. Again, our strategy should be working together in our communities. And I want to be very specific, in our communities, speaking our language. The youth are so excited. One last thing I'm going to end. The youth are so excited. We had Meg Thee Stallion last night, and people are all pumped up. Quavo was there. He spoke. I mean, people are really. He's been working closely with the vice president on gun safety and gun control issues, and really getting the message out to our community and the young ones about the danger of guns and what it's doing in our community. Our young people's lives are at stake, and if it doesn't matter, then if it does matter, so we have to do the right thing. So again, I'm going to put my information there. I'm running for re-election. We have to continue to re-elect people like us in our community that look like us, that talk like us, that think like us, because representation makes the difference, because we bring all ideas on the table to solve the myriad of problems that we have. Healthcare is on the line, voting rights are on the line, gun safety on the line, education is on the line. Thank you all. I'm going to post my information. I'd like to shout out to One Voice Africa, all the folks on the line, NAPAC, Ghana, Ethiopia, Cameroon, Liberia, Gambia. I know I can't mention all the countries, so forgive me. All right. But thanks again, Shegun Adeyina. I'll post my information in. And let's get Kamala to the White House.
Thank you so very much. Our next speaker, we're gonna have my brother Amaha. He's been here a while and he came early, and I am so grateful to you. And of our, let me see, make sure we have, yes. So Amaha, and then our last speaker, as far as elected officials are concerned, is someone who I think probably closed it out. Very, very hot. I used to better. You can hear me. So anyway, Amaha. Amaha is the head of the African Communities Together. If you've never heard of them, I'm going to let him tell you guys a little bit about it and all the activism that they've done for the African community. Although he doesn't live here in the DMV areas, many of us know him because dude be traveling. And he goes all over the place, and he's out there fighting the good fight. When he started at, what is it, decade? It was just him going from place to place to place to place, and he has built this thing, and it's now a powerhouse. And I'm so proud to know him. My brother, give us some wisdom.
My sister, thank you so much, and much respect and gratitude for organizing this incredible gathering of African community, grassroots, and elected leaders. We had over 1,000 people on this call at one point. I was just watching the numbers tick up in disbelief. And it's really an incredible effort, and it really goes to show how much energy and excitement and hope and also commitment there is around this, sort of monumental historic election for president. And my name is Amaha Casa. I've had the privilege of working with many of you in my role as Executive Director of African Communities Together. We are an organization of immigrants from Africa and their families. I'm first generation, born in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, raised in the US. And we work with the African communities in New York City, in the DC, Maryland, Virginia metro area, and in Pennsylvania, as well as with a national network called ALEF, the African Immigrant Leadership Forum. You can find that information on our website. But I am here today in my individual capacity because ACT is a nonprofit 501c3. I'm here in my capacity as a naturalized citizen who's getting involved in this election and fighting for our future. So you've heard incredibly powerful words from some of our leaders about the why of this election. I'm going to add just a little bit there, but I really mostly want to talk about the how. How do we bring this home? How do we actually make the change that we're seeking? So, but part of the why, I think we would be remiss to forget that during the 4 years of the Trump administration, we as Black people, we as immigrants, and we as specifically Africans were under attack. I would deal every day with people coming to our offices in desperation, in fear of immigration knocking on their door, even many of them who had legal status. In hurt and anger that the president of the United States was going on national television using slurs and derogatory language about our homelands, using this horrible term to refer to our country, making references to once they get here, they're never going to want to go back to their huts. flying to Minnesota to pin the blame for crime on Minnesota's African communities, when in fact we know that immigrant communities have some of the lowest crime rates. So we remember what it is to be under the gun and to be in the crosshairs. But we are not, as Africans, we're not just the canary in the coal mine. No, we are the tip of the spear. Because we know what it's like to be under attack by anti-Black racism, by anti-immigrant xenophobia, by anti-African stereotyping. We are also in the leadership of movements to change that. And frankly, we know what, many of us who are immigrants from Africa or children of immigrants from Africa, we know what would-be dictators look like, and we know how to fight them. And we need to, unfortunately, tap into a lot of those skills right here and right now. So that's the why, and I think everybody on this call has either shared or has in their mind their why. And those whys we need to share with our community members so that when they're saying, well, what about, this issue? What about, I don't like the new migrants, what about the ones who've been here for a long time? Or what about LGBT? I'm not, because of my faith, I don't support LGBT communities. Whatever their why is, we need to stay grounded in our why. And our why is we remember what it was like 4 years ago, and we don't want to go back there. We want to go forward and not backwards. The how is really important. And there's, looking at the chat, a lot of the questions really were about how. Our African Congress members, our African City Council members, our African state electeds can tell you that really elections come down to three things. One is name recognition, and Vice President Harris has a lot of that, but we also need to define her as a candidate in our communities as well as whatever the media is doing. Unfortunately, former President Trump had a lot of name recognition on his side. The other thing that comes down that decides elections a lot of times is money. And the organizers of this call, Sister Fatima Tabari and Brother Sharif, have done a great thing by giving us a dedicated donation link, which we can drop in the chat again. And those donations are going to show as coming from Africans in Diaspora for Kamala. And that is the way that we get noticed and influence with the administration, the future administration of President Kamala Harris, and all those issues that people are raising in the chat. Well, how do we raise the issue of Gaza and Palestine? That is part of our voice, is knowing that we help deliver a margin of victory. The third thing that wins elections is directly talking to people who can vote. And unfortunately, a lot of times I see a lot of our would-be candidates for office who leave that part out, right? And the difference between, victory and success is sometimes how many phones do you pick up and call? How many doors do you go door to door? And how many volunteers do you mobilize to talk to their friends and neighbors, remind them of what's on the ballot, make sure that they're going to commit to vote. So we really need that. Fatmata shared a link for an email address where people can, contact and say that they're interested in volunteering. I think, Fatmata, there's also going to be probably a mass email that goes out to people who registered for this webinar afterwards, with opportunities to get involved, not just donate, but pick up the phone, go door to door, talk to your friends and neighbors. That is what's going to win this election. That's what's going to hold back the tide of authoritarianism and build a better life for ourselves and the communities that we are deeply intimately connected to on the African continent. I'm so proud to be part of this work with all of you all. Give yourselves a hand for really believing in and working for and fighting for democracy.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. So our last speaker, because I think that's our last speaker as far as elected officials and community leaders before we go to our organizers, because we want to recognize the people who have worked really hard to make this happen. Before we go to our organizers, our last speaker will be our council member here in Montgomery County, Councilmember Will Juwando. He was the first African elected to the county council in this county. And I would open it up for him to talk a little bit more about his own history and his own background, and to close us out on elected officials and leaders' comments. Councilmember Will Juwando, take it up.
Thank you, Fatmata. Good to see everybody. I was trying to get my technology worked out here, but this is an inspiring event. It's good to see everybody. The fact that hundreds of us and thousands will view this and participate, it's an exciting time for us as members of the African diaspora, and for our country and for our world, because we know this election is not only about the US, it's about policy in Africa, it's about policy in the rest of the world. It's everything from the hyper local to the hyper global. All of that is on the line. And we know that Kamala Harris is ready, not only to do the job, but that she's also going to have the interests of the African diaspora at heart. I think it's fortuitous we're speaking on a day where the former president questioned the blackness of Kamala Harris in front of a room of Black journalists, right? This guy has no, he doesn't care, and you remember one of his first actions when he was elected last time was to restrict travel and immigration from African countries. One of the first things he did. So that everything you need to know about Donald Trump vis-a-vis Africa, vis-a-vis Black people. And it just, I know you all know that, but I think it's important to remind our communities about that. These folks that are going around saying Trump's going to help me or do this and that. We need to point out, no, what he's done. He's restricted. He's not allowed your cousins, your aunt, your mom, your grandmother, your father, your uncle to come to this country to pursue a better life. He's talked about putting the military and the National Guard into communities of color across the country, many that where our communities are. And so just, go down the list. And then also talk about certainly the positive agenda of Kamala Harris. I've been very fortunate to know her for a long period of time, know her personally, seen her as Attorney General of the state of California and Senator for the state of California, and now as Vice President. She cares about our people, because they're her people. And she has a deep concern for the global community, but in particular, a connection to the African diaspora. And, I think it's very fortuitous that the way this worked out. I also want to say something about Joe Biden, how much of a sacrifice and selfless act he did to step down. Now he got pressured, but he did the right thing, and he did it for the good of the country and the good of the world. And Fatmata knows, she's been in the trenches. Bernice, I see others on here. My folks from Georgia. I think I saw Wilmot Collins on here, my brother from Montana. This is a global network. When we started trying to organize Africans in the diaspora and African immigrants to build electoral power here in the DMV, we started developing this network across the country. Now we have come so far in a short period of time, but we have a long way to go. As Fatmata said, I was the first on the council, but there was a time where we didn't have any in the state. And now in the state of Maryland, we have several. We have Bernice, and I think I saw Walla on here and others, and we have folks at the state and county level. That's happened in other states across the country. We may have folks in Congress. So this is a great thing that we're starting to organize and leverage our community and our power. One of the last things I'll say, we have to get out the information of how devastating Project 2025 will be for our community, and the positive message of what Kamala Harris has done as part of the Joe Biden team, one of the most successful presidencies ever, as far as gun control, environmental protections, go down the list, student loan debt. I bet you someone on this call had their student loan debt forgiven. Making investments in clean energy, the infrastructure bill, go down the list. They've done so many things. And she has an agenda to, as you've heard from previous speakers, to lower healthcare, to raise wages, to support unions, to make sure we invest in education and childcare and early childhood education, things that are going to disproportionately help our communities and our kids. And so we've got to fight for that. We've got to take that message, and it's an inclusive message that when we all do better, we all do better, right? And so I'm really excited that the African community, the Black community, all are going to coalesce. I've been on so many of these calls. I was on the Black men's call last week. We sat in on the women's call. You got all these groups organizing. Some people say that's a bad thing. That's a great thing. All the diverse communities in America organizing around the energy and excitement to nominate and elect Kamala Harris, the next president of the United States. I know as a girl dad, I got four children, 3 girls and a boy. I'm so excited that they're alive at this time to be able to witness this. And we have to do everything we can these last 90 plus days to get her elected. And I'm a delegate to the convention, so I'll be there in Chicago. If anyone's in Chicago, I would love to see you. I'll also put my information in the chat. But please don't take this, just be this the only thing you do. We have to donate. We have to get to some of these swing states and people we know in those states and contact them, have them contact other people. If you remember when Hillary Clinton lost, it was by thousands of votes across a few states. And this will matter, right? This is really one of those elections where every vote will matter. And there's something we all can do for the next 90 days because it's so much on the line. I know you know that, but it's easy to fall into the inertia of, oh, well, there's people doing that and this. No, what are you going to do these next 90 days? That's what we have to be focused on. So I really appreciate Fatmata for organizing this and all the organizers. And I'm in the fight with you and look forward to continuing to organize and using this as a catalyst, not just to get her elected, but also so that we can organize and have a voice in the Harris administration, because that's going to be equally as important for us to do that. So let's do this, get this part done, and then let's keep building our collective power for the benefit of our communities. So God bless you. I appreciate it. And back to you, Fatmata.
Thank you. Thank you so much, my dear brother and friend. This is great. So we have several comments in the chat. We're trying to answer them as much as possible in the Q&A chat. But I wanted this opportunity really to present the people behind all this. I know people kept saying, thanks Fatmata, thanks Fatmata, thanks Dr. Sharif, but it wasn't just us, right? Dr. Sharif, you agree, right? We weren't right.
It's been a village. It's been a village. There
Right.
are lots of African diaspora from all over the country who's been here, supported this work. There's been a lot of work behind the scenes to succeed, and there's been a lot of our African American brothers and sisters as well that's been supporting us. So we're all excited. I mean, when we started this stuff, our goal was to get about 500 people registered. That's what I told you. I said, hey, if we could get 500 people registered, it'd be excellent. We have over 3,000 registered to be here. And that tells you that the Africans in the diaspora are excited. Like all the other everyone else I've talked about, we don't want to go back. We do recall when Trump was in power, how insulting he was to our continent, how he insulting the Muslim ban, the African ban. And I know culturally Africans, we always want to forget traumatic things, but this is one traumatic stuff we don't want to forget. And we want to make sure we support Kamala Harris to win. So we have to do that by obviously making sure we donate, like Brother Amahara said, making sure we do the grassroots work, knocking doors, and making sure we sensitize our community. And I think I'm excited. This is a start. I think we're only going to get better moving forward. And I'm excited to have all the rest of the organizers speak for themselves here.
Let's start with Sister Philomena. She's in Nigeria and it's like 2:00 in the morning where she's at, so she can say, give us a little bit of wisdom so she can go rest. Hope we haven't lost her. It looks like we may have lost her. Snap. Okay, maybe she can come back. In the meantime, who wants to go first? Our organizers.
Well, Dr. Icy Bull, would you like to start?
Well, thank you very much. Committee members, it's been a very great experience, and I'm very honored to be a part of this moment of history. As you all know, it takes a village to raise a child. And this time we're going to put it in place. It's going to take a village to elect the first female African Asian president. I am from the great tile state of North Carolina, and I am going to lay claim that North Carolina is going to deliver this time. As Representative Omar stated, it's not only about winning, but winning with a mandate. So tonight, I'm going to extend the invitation to you all to get ready to celebrate with VP Harris as she moves to the White House. So I'm going to give you the acronym for you to RSVP your place. And we, the African diaspora, we are going to RSVP to the White House to visit VP Harris when she becomes president. So what is the R for in the RSVP? It's for you to not only register, but to register your brothers and sisters of the village. And what is the S for? Is to sponsor the Harris campaign, to put your money where your mouth is. Because at this time, it is very important that we, the pioneers who are sitting here as citizens, are blessed. And we need to continue to open this pathway for our brothers and sisters yet unborn to be able to come and visit and stay and build the American dream. And the V in the RSVP is for you to vote and vote for victory for the Harris campaign. And the P for the RSVP is to promote the Harris campaign. Because we cannot allow America to go back, not only because it is wrong, but as Harris said, it is plain weird. And we cannot allow weird to win because we will suffer. We need to look to the future, and that future right now is the Harris ticket to the White House. So my brothers and sisters, as we build this village, remember your RSVP. Register to vote, sponsor this campaign, vote for victory, and promote the Harris campaign. And thank you all organizers. It's been a great pleasure.
Thank you, Dr. Isibo. My sister there, Pamela Anchan from California. Can you unmute yourself, please, and share your story and get us excited?
Well. Thank you so much, Fatmata. It's such an honor, and I got on board when Dr. Sharif called me. I was also trying to do something similar, and I thought, why not join you guys? It's better. So I'm the founder of the Immigrant Magazine out here in Los Angeles, California, a company that I founded exactly for the reason we're here, which was because I was just so sick and tired of how we were portrayed in the media, especially because, media is very strong. Media has the power to move. Media has the power to transform, and media has the power to grow something or kill it. And so I really just want to start by just thanking you guys and thanking all the amazing speakers. I'm not going to label the obvious. It's been said. Most of the things that have been said are things that I think resonate. But the thing I really want to touch on right here is, the African spirit, the African immigrant mindset. We are not used to doing this. We are not used to coming forward and supporting and participating. And for the first time, look at us here. I have already been on so many other calls, women, Black people. I've been on so many Zooms already, just from the moment where the vice president became our presumptive nominee. And there is so much enthusiasm, and I really would like to see this enthusiasm not just be for today, but that this will carry on, and not just for this election cycle, but throughout our standing here in the United States forever. Because we have children here, we are living here. Most of us are now binational. We live on the continent, we live here. We're even getting buried here. That idea that you were gonna die and be buried in Africa, it's gradually beginning to just dissipate, and this has now become our homeland. And so we need to engage each other. We need to participate. I just want to say that for the vice president, I have a personal story because I have had the privilege to have met her and actually interacted with her before she even considered running for president. And I found her to be a person who's very gracious. That smile and that laugh that you see and experience is who she is. Some people think it's strange, but she is so inspiring. She inspires me as a woman to dare. She reminds me of when the former President Barack Obama was running for office. I was skeptical, and I remember my son telling me, "Mommy, he's going to win." And I was worried because I didn't have that confidence. I didn't have that faith. But look at that. He came around and he ran for 2 terms and succeeded. So a lot of people are skeptical and hesitant. Oh, she's a woman of color, or she's a woman and she cannot make it. But she will not make it only if we do not participate. And if we do not participate, then we cannot sit and grumble. We can't complain. And we have to look at other communities. Look at the Jewish community. Look at the Arabs. Look at the Latinos, the Cubans, name it. They have a stake. Politics is a game of power. And until we show that our voices and our vote matters, nobody's going to take us seriously. So we need to show Congresswoman Ilan Omar, we need to show the Congress people that have the representatives that are African, of African descent and Black, that we are here to support them. Sometimes I get tired of the African-American community carrying us. They've carried us through the civil rights movement. It is our turn. Like I know our flyer actually said it. It is our turn to answer the call. It is our turn to show that African immigrants, Africans in the diaspora, that we are not just sitting and taking care of our personal success. We are so good at being successful on a personal level, but collectively, we are generally weak. So I am so happy that we are here today supporting our own fellow sister, our own fellow woman of color who has taken we're showing our children. My daughter is actually going to college this year. She wants to study political science. I can now say to her, you can someday run. You can run for office. The only way that we defend ourselves is that we have our own people in policing. We have people in public service, in all the areas that matter. If not, what happens? Your child's looking for a job. You're looking for an opportunity. You have nobody. Representation matters. So I just really want to say that it's enough. We have been sitting on the sidelines for too long. It's time for us to make a difference. I'm here, even though as an Immigrant Magazine, I want to tell you I'm on the steering committee for Africans in America Alliance, an alliance that was born because we were fighting against a billionaire here in Los Angeles. If you guys remember Karen Bass's run for election, we, the Africans, galvanized our diaspora to fight for Karen Bass. And she is today Los Angeles mayor. We're one of the coalitions that worked. So these coalitions matter. Do not think that your vote doesn't matter. I've had people call me from the time I started sharing the information about this Zoom today. People have called me, why Kamala? Some people are asking me, what is at stake? A lot of our people don't even understand the process. Someone said to me, oh, Al Gore lost, oh, Hillary Clinton lost. We do not understand the system. So I'm hoping that as we move forward with this process, that we'll seize the opportunity as well to educate our community, because we don't know how these things work. The only way I've been fortunate to know how it works is because as a media person, I tend to go where the conversation is taking place. We are actually a community partner to the Stop the Hate movement in California. And we chose to focus on Black immigrants, the diaspora, Black immigrants, because we realized that we had no voice. The Latinos have a voice. The Arabs have a voice. LGBTQ has a voice, even though our company is focused on all immigrants. But we realized that that segment, which is us, because we do not show up, was lacking in that representation of voice. So we are part of the movement of Stop the Hate. We are Stop the Hate in California. And I just want to extend that we are here for all of you. I'm so glad to get to know everyone on this panel. We have a platform that reaches a lot of people, and that's what I've been using. Our demographics, cut it and slice it, whatever group you want, we can give you that group. We have Nigerians, we have East, we have all kinds of groups that are under our mantle because we are generally the immigrant magazine. We have to tell our stories to them so they get to know us, because a lot of the time the prejudice comes because people don't know you.
Yeah. Thank you. Excellent. Excellent.
I just want people, please donate. Last but not least, please donate. Put whatever amount you have. It doesn't matter, $5 you have. Donate, 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 and participate and educate yourselves. Thank you. Sorry I was a little long, but I really had to speak to my people.
Thank you, Sister Pamela. If I can, Vicky, are you on with us? You're next.
Hi everyone. My name is Vicky Rameau, and I'm in the great MoCo corner of Maryland in the DMV. Really excited to be here. I just want to remind everybody that we can all move one person. Like, you don't have to worry about, getting them in the hundreds or in the thousands. We all have a friend, we all have a cousin, an aunt, a WhatsApp group, where people respect you, where your voice matters. And if you stay informed on the issues, it's so easy and helpful that the information is coming from you. I feel like, I'm a communication specialist and I'm a content creator. And, as soon as this election, Kamala was endorsed, what I saw a lot of from Africans in the diaspora was America is not ready for a Black woman president. America is not ready for a Black woman president. And, the question that I posed, using my own social media channels was, well, what are you afraid of with a Black woman with power, or a Black woman leader? Challenging people to really reflect on their prejudices, that a lot of us actually grew up in households where women were the leaders. A lot of us come from communities that have been led by women. And so there's nothing to fear, and we can all lean in for this really important time. The other thing is that, our communities are oftentimes so divided because we tend to think about national issues. But I think that this is a great opportunity for all of us as Africans to come together in the diaspora and basically think about the future of America. I don't think that this is, I have an 8-year-old son, and when I think of these elections, I'm really thinking about him. I'm thinking about, is he going to grow up in an America that's better than the one that I grew up in, right? Is he going to have the same opportunities? I was in high school. We were the generation of people who were in high school during the first mass shooting, Columbine, right? And I remember taking a pledge in my, sophomore year class, and we were all so shocked about how this should never, ever happen again in America. And to live in a time now where gun violence is so normalized, right? And as the son of a Black boy, what I constantly think about is, when he's 13 and 14 and I let him go outside to play in the park, is he going to come home at night, right? So when I think of the possibility of having or electing Vice President Kamala Harris for president, that I'm thinking about someone who's going to fight for better gun laws and gun control, and also someone who's going to make sure that our kids are safer in schools, and also learning about all of their history, not just some of their history. So if you're on this call, I feel like you're already, sometimes we're always thinking about who's going to lead. If we're here today is because, 2 people that I know answered the call. We have both Dr. Fuad and Fasmata and I are in a Sierra Leone community group that I started a couple months ago. And Dr. Fuad reached out to me separately and said, oh, I'm fired up. I'm like, Doc, I'm fired up. And he's like, we need to come together and raise. And almost like in the same hour as he's calling me, Fatmata is sending out a message in the WhatsApp group like, hey, we need to mobilize. And I was like, you guys need to get together. And today we're here and over, I think at the maximum, there were like maybe 1,012 or 1,050 people on this call. And this is less than 2 weeks of mobilizing and organizing. So we're clearly here. We clearly have the power and clearly have the voice. So please lean in for this campaign wherever you see disinformation and misinformation against Kamala Harris. Just be the voice, stay informed so that you can counter these narratives across different platforms. And today, if you're on here, please donate to this link so that our voices as Africans can be heard, and then post this call to also share that donation link. You can save it in your signature, in your emails. You can put it on your Instagram stories and your Facebook stories. You can post it on Facebook. You can also do like a broadcast list blast on WhatsApp. You can share it in your WhatsApp communities. We really need to encourage people who are Africans in the diaspora to give collectively with one voice, because that's the only way that we get seen, and visibility is really, really important, because it ultimately will lead to better representation for us. So thank you so much for being the great leaders that all of you are. It's been so inspiring to be on this call today.
Thank you.
Thank you, the connector. Want to call on my sis, Maureen. Give us a little bit of wisdom. So Maureen and I are both in the Governor's Commission on African Affairs for the state of Maryland. That's how I met her. And it was the most interesting thing. We met and it was instantaneous. Like we were making boogie-eyed faces at each other, like, get out of my way. It was almost, the sisterly thing came out of nowhere. Like it was just ridiculous. Amazing woman, smart, community in her bone in the little bit of time I've known her. Someone with one of the most beautiful smiles I've ever seen in my life. And this is what you see all the time. So Maureen, my sis, come on.
Thank you, Fatmata. Thank you, everybody, for having me here. As Fatmata put it, thank you for the kind words. We serve together in the Governor's Office of Community Initiatives. Community is what I eat, what I breathe. When I wake up, that's all I think of. So I work with mostly refugees and immigrants. And even as Mr. Amaha put it, what is my why? I don't want to think of what's going to happen if the refugee community and the immigrants will not get any resources to them or any access to resources. So, and that's my why. I'm fighting for the refugee community, and we gotta get Kamala Harris up there. There's no backing up. Like there's no other way. That's the only way. That's where we should focus. Talk to our family, talk to our friends. In every space we are in, we are all leaders in different spaces. Let's talk to everybody. We gotta get everybody out here. Civic education is important because our African communities, I wanna say we need to get that education in there. So we gotta get our youth out there to vote. New voters, we gotta get that civic education to them. We gotta get everybody on board and help everybody. Let's help each other. African community, we gotta help each other and get Kamala Harris elected. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the love. Thank you.
Yes, my sis Umuba, known her for a few years. One of the leaders within the Guinean community. So you see, as you can see, we're very multi, right? Maureen, you didn't tell them where you were from.
I'm from Kenya.
Yes. There you go.
Thank you.
Sis Umuba, can you give us a few words? Are you here or did you go to sleep? I know it's been a while. No? Yes? Okay. So so we have a lot of things in the chat. Some of them will probably have to just respond to everyone via email. Whatchamacallit? Can we open the regular chat? She here. Holly, can you open the chat? Some people want to put some stuff in there, I guess, for us to know.
Yeah, I mean, if I may, if I might, I always wanted to thank all the participants that went ahead to register, that took this busy time on a Wednesday night to stay on. That tells me that the African diaspora is ready. We've been blessed in the past. Our African American brothers and sisters had supported us. They've carried us to where we are. I think it's about time the African diaspora step up. I know we do it on our own individual basis, but collectively, the African diaspora has to join this call so we could take the support to the next level. And thank you. This is a good sign.
Yes, it is. The chat is open. I know some people are saying they want to be able to put some comments in the chat. It's open for everyone, for all attendees to put in comments. And I want to say thank you so very much to all of you. A really, 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 really hearty special thanks to Holly Weeks. You came on like last second and she just saved me to stream it live onto the YouTube. I literally had to do the thing, take the picture, send it to her. She said, no, pick that one and do that one. Like she literally walked me step by step to be able to do this thing. And I really appreciate you taking the time. And she did it all calmly. And I'm sure in her head, she's like, this lady can't even do this thing. Why is she trying to do this call? But I really appreciate you. And I appreciate Win with Black Women for their leadership in this space and making this available for all of us to be able to do this. So, my people, this is a launch, right? This is a launch. This is not the meeting. This is a launch. You are all invited to be more engaged. That's the whole idea of this, for us to be more engaged and become more involved in the electoral process. I know for many of us, you know, we have a hard time following politics. We like to say we don't like politics, so we don't do politics. And you know, there's a saying that says, if you don't do politics, politics will do you, right? Everything you do in your life is about politics. The potholes on your street is about politics. Who teaches your child is politics. What curriculum your child gets in school, politics. Heck, even your marriage is politics. Your family is politics. So the idea that politics is for these other people harms us. And I know we can get worked up and heated up, and maybe sometimes that's why people don't want things in the chats or in this WhatsApp groups that we all belong to. But I urge everyone to take it seriously. You've heard everything here. You've heard people talk about how well President Joe Biden, what he did in stepping away and the work he did before now. We are now at a crossroads. We have two choices. It's a binary choice. There is no third choice. It's either Donald J. Trump, the man that literally called our nations asshole countries. And I'll say this to people. Some of our nations may not be doing the best for their people. But just like you shouldn't want anyone to call your mother or your father out of their name, neither should you want any racist, xenophobe to call your country out of its name, because that is still your land of birth or your parents' land of birth. And so regardless of what's going on there, someone here who has done nothing for you or your people, you should not allow to disrespect your people and disrespect you. Vice President Kamala Harris is our best chance to make sure that man does not step foot in the White House. She's our only choice, right? She's our only choice. And I like to say this to people. You know, people say we do, what is it, identity politics. All politics is identity politics. Historically, white supremacy led people to only vote for white males, not because they're the smartest, not because they know the best, because they're white males. That's identity, right? Or they're males. That's identity. So now when we say we are looking to elect the first Black woman, first Asian woman, we are charged with identity politics, but it's all identity. Whether you're Republican, it's your identity. You're Democrat, it's your identity. You're independent, it's your identity. It's all identity politics. So I urge everyone to not allow anyone to demonize that word and make it seem as if it's a bad word. It's not. It's part of what we do every day. Your identity is what you use for your daily life. So thank you, everyone. Yep, she's Asian and Caribbean and Black. There you go. Exactly. And so, Dr. Fawad?
Yes, I just want to remind everyone, obviously, to thank everyone for being here today. But the most important at the end of the day is, I know some of our people have been used to donating on Act Blue, but we want you to donate at our specific Africans in the diaspora for Kamala Harris, so we could get credit for this collectively, so they know this is the African diaspora that raised these funds. Just don't go directly to the Democratic donate site. Donate through our link, which will be shared to you directly to your email or on this chat group, or send it to you on WhatsApp. But so if you're gonna donate, please donate using our specific link. That's important that they know that we met. We had over 1,000 more people here, and the donations came directly from our people.
And look out for email from us. It'll be Africans United 0721@gmail.com. So look out for an email with the donation links, with other resources, links for you to check your registration. So look out, it's not once. So we're gonna be doing this weekly meetings, correct, Dr. Sharif?
Yes, ma'am. It's gonna be a weekly meeting until the election, weekly meetings.
And even after the election.
And even after election, we'll have the next after the election, what we're gonna do. This is a start, the energy is there collectively. I know individually, African diaspora has been contributing in different ways, but this is the first time we are collectively getting together to do this as one from all over the country, all over the continent of Africa as well. And on a weekly basis, every Wednesday, 8:30, starting next week, we're gonna meet.
Okay. So, yes, Maureen and Pamela.
Yes. I would say just if you could put the FB link on the chat for anyone who wants to join the group. That's another way they can get information.
Yes, thank you so much for that. Yes,
thank you.
Definitely.
Okay. I just wanted to say that some people were unable to join for some reason. They felt like they dropped out or something. They didn't get the new link. Maybe we should also share the donation link with them, or everyone that is on the call can maybe forward to family and friends that wants to donate, but that couldn't be here because of maybe work or something like that, just to get more.
Okay, thank you. And we'll be sending out an email to everyone who has registered. We'll send them an email with a link to the YouTube live stream so you can see it and listen, and the Facebook group page so you can join and you'll be able to find out information from that page. So I think that's about it, right, everybody? Unless there's anything more.
I think it would be helpful for participants in the chat to list their states and country, so we could see the diversity of our participants and build upon it. And as we move forward, even though we're going to have elected representatives speak at some point in time, we would vet some of our participants to tell their story, because we have interest.
Dr. Bull, you opened a can of worms. Look at this.
Yes, so we'll get there and we will talk to folks and get them, listen to their story on the side, and then we would have the participants, because this journey is not only for us, but those who've come before us and those who will come after us. And it's very important that we keep the pathway open.
Yeah, I mean, I see the different states within the U.S. in different states within the continent. It's just amazing to see all those the continent for all over, south, east, north, and south. This is just amazing. This is a history making to see this level of Africans in the diaspora who they know we have a lot to lose. So we know when we see a dictator, we know more than a lot of people. We've seen plenty of them. And we want to make sure we preserve America to be a democratic country.
Perfect.
I
That's a
can
good
add
question.
something.
Yes.
Sorry, I know you want
Go
to
ahead.
comment it, but I can add, we are not only rallying behind Kamala Harris just because of identity or whatever. It's because she's the best candidate that we are rallying behind. There's no other candidate that we want to do it for.
Correct.
So we are right behind her.
Yeah.
100%. Thank you.
Yeah. And if I may, I want to obviously take this time to thank the Honorable Representative Honorable Gregory Meeks from New York. He's been very instrumental reaching out to his colleagues. When I reached out to him, he was very supportive. It was not easy, Madam Barry would tell you, for us to get a dedicated link from the Harris campaign. It was like, I mean, it's like going to the moon. It was a difficult task. We got a lot of help from behind the scenes to make sure that happened in such a short period of time, because we need that dedicated link to make sure that the donation came from Africans in the diaspora for Kamala Harris. Thank you to Honorable Gregory Meeks. Thank you to obviously the Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. We're going to go out, reach and support her for her primary as well as her elections coming up in November. Representative Gabe Amor from Rhode Island and Representative Joe Negus from Colorado. He's going to a meeting in Houston. They literally on the air. That's why they couldn't sign in, but they definitely will be signing in the next time. So thank you to them. They are one of the reasons why we are successful today. And thank you to all of you guys.
Okay. Good, thank you. So we're staying on a little bit longer, if you don't mind. Holly, people are putting comments in the chat. It's still coming, just to give people an opportunity to put out this stuff. Somebody asked, can I volunteer in Arizona? Yes, you can. And you'll be getting emails to give you links to register, to ask to volunteer in different places in your particular state.
Yeah.
So we're sending out all those resources. And
Madam Barry, if anybody else is in that participation who want to be part of the planning committee in different state, different country, please reach out to me or reach out to any of the committee members. This is not inclusive to just us here. Anyone that has IT skills, computer skills, we need your help. Be part of this. We're all the planners. It's not just me or Madam Barry or those who are here. If you want to partake in the stuff, please reach out to us and you could participate.
Perfect. And I see people saying they want to help. So when we send the email, please respond. We will have a form for you to fill out to get emails for our weekly calls. Okay. And if you can, send that to like-minded people. I say that because I respectfully would ask people, we have like 95, 96 days. And the energy that is going to take to go back and forth with someone who is set that Donald Trump walks on water, we can't spend that much time. So, if people who are asking, especially those of us who look like us, who are asking the question, why is she better than Donald Trump? Or they say Donald Trump, when he was in office, things were better, and we all know it wasn't. We respectfully disagree, and we continue with the work because it's 95 days. Yeah. And we need to put all our energy in galvanizing people and getting people to register to vote, getting people to go out and vote, getting people to donate, and raising this money. The money, but the numbers also count. So please look out for the donation link and all the resources to register to volunteer. Okay. And we appreciate all of you. Thank you very much. I see I'm ready. And yes, thank you so much for saying that. You will be receiving an email because you had to register for you to be here. So thank you very much, everyone. And thanks again, Holly, for staying till 10:20. Really appreciate y'all.
Thank you, Holly, for all your
Good night,
support.
everybody.
Thank you, thank you, and thank you for the organizers and the participants who took time off to be, because we all know we have lots of stake in this, and I see that energy. Let's continue with this. So next Wednesday, 8:30, same place, same time, and please donate, and spread the news. Thank you, guys.
Bye, everybody.